there along the way.
From Burleson to Venus and Grandview to Godley, this is the voice of Johnson County, Joco Community Radio.
Let's be honest, wheelchairs are heavy, bulky, and ugly. If you carry a wheelchair in your car to take care of a loved one, you know how hard it is getting that clunky, old-style wheelchair in and out of your car. Introducing the Feather Chair Wheelchair. At 13 pounds, it's the world's lightest wheelchair. It folds in seconds and fits neatly in your trunk, backseat, or closet, so you can take it everywhere. And it's only available right here. Order yours today and get a free wheelchair case, a $50 value, yours free. The Feather Chair. The world's lightest wheelchair is just $4.99 with easy payments as low as $16 a month. Sorry, no Medicare or insurance accepted. So call right now to order yours.
800-823-5826. 800-823-5826. 800-823-5826. That's 800-823-5826.
Wilfred Brimley for Loafing Dog.
I'm Wilfred Brimley for Loafing Dog. You know, when I get the hankering for a hot dog, I go to Cleveland, Texas. Just a couple blocks off the square, they got Loafing Dog. They got the Neely Dog, the Mary Sunshine Dog, the Casey Dog, and the Shirley Dog. Why, they even got the Pacer Dog, the Brooklyn Dog, and the Jim Dog. Can't forget the Shane Dog, or the Joy Dog, and the Monty Dog. I like that fool. The Nakia Dog and the Braxton Dog round things off. Why, they even got a kids menu too.
Loafing Dog, 208 East Chambers Street, Cleveland, Texas. Lunch, catering, or takeout, plus outdoor seating. Phone number is 817-556-1040.
This is Wilford Brimley. And don't forget, Loafing Dog won't give you diabetes.
Hey, there's something you forgot to do. It sure is hot. Are you sweating like a dog? Wait, what? Dogs don't sweat. Oh no, you forgot to get your window tinted. Whether it's the kitchen window that sits in the sun for the hottest part of the day, or you just got new wheels, call Sharp Window Tinting in Burleson. 817-615-9379, or look them up on the web, sharpwindowtint.com.
If you're trying to quit drinking or doing too many drugs, listen to me. You don't know me and we'll never meet. I had a problem like you once. I drank and used to party a little too much till it got out of control and almost ruined my life. I realized I needed help to fix my problem before it totally destroyed me. If you've tried to fix your drinking and drug problem and you know you can't do it alone, you need to call the National Treatment Advisors. They'll immerse you into a 30-day program to replace your old habits with new habits and totally change your life. And if you have PPO private health insurance, the entire program may be covered. Fix your problem right now before it gets any worse. Get clean. Call now and learn more. 877-247-1581. 877-247-1581. 877-247-1581. Fast Track Student Loans can get your student loans out of default, stop any wage garnishments, stop collection calls, and stop seizure of your tax refund. Give yourself a break. Stop the stress and get your student loan payments down to as little as $25 a month based on what you can afford to pay. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395.
Good evening, folks. I am Angelo Rocha. I am the host of Vet for Vets, a show where we interview and spotlight on local Johnson County veterans and their families. Our special guests will reminisce and hopefully open up about their funny and amazing and emotional moments from their life before, during, and after the military. Today we have with us Dave and Rachel McKeenin, a lovely couple from Johnson County. Before we get started, listen, if you're a veteran in crisis or you're concerned about one, please call the free suicide hotline at 988. Yes, that's 988. Then press 1, and they'll connect you with a real qualified person to support you in your time of need. You can also text 838-255. If there's one thing to take away from today's show, would be that you are not alone. The Veterans Crisis Hotline works and is there for you. Listen to me. If you are a veteran, your life has meaning. Your life does matter. Your life means so much to so many people. I get emotional thinking about this. Please do not give up. I have too many friends that have killed themselves over things that are so menial. They could have just called somebody like me, and I could have talked them out of it. But anyway, let's go on to our special guest. Dave, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Good. Are you okay?
Yeah.
Rachel, how are you?
Good. I'm good. How are you?
Great. Okay. So, David, tell me about you growing up. How were you as a kid?
I thought I was pretty good. My parents would have said a bit differently. I was wild and rambunctious. I was never a homesick kid where I had to be home all the time. I always wanted to go and go and go. So any chance I got to leave and go explore and things like that, and I was always willing to take advantage of it.
Okay. So, are you okay, Rachel?
Yeah.
Good. Good. Yeah, I know you seem a little nervous with your husband
I'm
talking. You
fine.
seem very nervous.
I like listening to him talk.
Okay. So, Dave, you have both your parents are still alive, right?
Yes, sir.
So, if you could describe, say, somebody like your mom, how would you describe her?
Well, my mother's about 100 pounds soaking wet. She's tiny and frail. When myself, my sister, who's 2 years younger than me, and my little brother, who's 6 years younger than me, when each of us reached the 6th grade, we were bigger than our mom. But, she was always a small woman, but she was always dedicated. She made sure the house was clean, the kids were fed. She always took care of everything, and she never seemed like it would get her down being like that. She was small, but she was determined.
So, as Dave was growing up, where were you growing up, Rachel?
I was in the town nearby. I was in Joshua because he grew up in Cleburne and I grew up in Joshua, just a couple miles from him.
Oh,
So
okay. I was about to ask you that question, where you
Yeah.
kind of grew up. So, are there any of your friends that you still think about or hang out with or do anything with them?
Really only one, a friend of mine that we've been friends since we were freshmen in high school on the basketball team. We've been like brothers ever since high school. I talk to him the most, but other than that, not really. Just in passing, I might talk to a few friends, but nothing real like every day except for my buddy Dave.
No. How you doing, Dave? If you're listening in, your friend Dave is talking about you. So you're in high school. You don't know what you're going to do, possibly. Most of us don't know what we're going to do. What made you decide to join the military?
Well, I didn't make the decision in high school. I thought about it. I had the Marines. They were trying to recruit me in high school and everything. And I'd considered it because college really wasn't an option. Because I really didn't like high school. I just wanted to get out. But my mother convinced me. She's like, well, why don't you give the real world a try for a few years, get a job, maybe get an apartment, and find out what you want to do. And if it doesn't work out, then join. I didn't join until I was 24. And truth be told, I joined because I was bored.
All right, Dave, just letting you know that one of our listeners is saying that they can barely hear you. Let's go ahead and swap you out to this microphone real quick, okay, if that's okay with you. There you go. Because we want to make sure they can actually hear your story.
Good.
Okay. Thank you, listener. Thank you so much.
How about now? Is
Oh,
that better?
look at that. See, no,
I can
that's so
hear you,
much
that's
better.
it.
We don't know. I know number 3 was having a little issue.
Yeah.
It's
I couldn't hear you
it's
before.
that apparently it's having that issue with a lot of our hosts. So but I'm glad now I can hear you just
Okay,
fine.
good.
Great. So you are on number 5.
Okay.
Okay. So you grew up in Burleson. You decided to join the military. Where'd you go to Where'd you go to MEPS?
Right in Dallas.
Okay.
Mhm.
Did you have the nice little fun experience walking around in your boxer shorts?
I wouldn't call it fun, awkward,
It's very awkward. MEPS is definitely something that opens up your eyes about how the military kind of checks you out before you actually get into the service.
Mm.
So how old were you when you actually went into boot camp?
2 weeks before I turned 24.
Okay.
So I was still in
Late bloomer.
Yeah, I was one of the oldest ones there, but in my platoon, we had a lot of National Guard guys.
Yes.
So I wasn't the oldest one there because there were a lot of guys who were there for the National Guard and stuff like that. So they were a bit older than I was.
Oh.
But of the active duty guys, yes, I was one of the oldest. I thought it was weird when I started, but once I got to my unit, it actually really turned out to help because a lot of guys, when they wanted to move off post and get an apartment, a lot of them, it was their first apartment ever.
Yes.
So like I had to teach most of my platoon how to pay your water bill, how to get your electricity turned on.
A lot of when I was in the military, I was only 18. I didn't know how to do any of that.
Yeah, a lot of people didn't. I mean, I had to hold a class on how to write a check to pay your rent. And it's like, this is where you go.
This
You go to
is
the water
exactly
department
what
to
you
turn
gotta
your
do.
water
I know
on.
what you mean. Yeah.
A lot of them didn't know. So it was, it actually worked out well. That life experience of living on my own and stuff like that helped out a lot because I got to help them because a lot of them, they're like, I don't know how to get my water turned on or like, how do you pay your electric bill?
Yeah, they don't know any of that.
Yeah, I mean, because they were just kids too, and they were just excited to be able to move off post and to get a first apartment, because living on post and off post, it's a world of difference. It's nice to have a bit of separation between your work and home. I mean, if you got off work, you wouldn't want to go, from the shop floor to go, and then you live in the break room, like it was for most people in the military.
Yeah.
So a lot of them were excited, but they just didn't know. And if you don't know, you don't know. You can't get mad at somebody or upset because,
Well, that's what the military does. The military helps discipline and helps train. But that's the one thing. If you're listening and you're under a certain age, we'll say military age, and you have no idea what to do, the military, yes, for most of its cons, there's a lot of pros for the military. One of them is discipline and teaching you the things like simple basics of banking, how to deal with cars, vehicles, how to deal with rides, how to deal with electricity bills if you live off post.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, just so you know. Okay, so at this point, you're 24 years old. Have you met your wife yet?
Well, I had met her before I left because my best friend Dave, we were roommates. His little sister was friends with her, so I've known her and her family. I mean, because I went to Joshua.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Well, I went to Joshua High School too. We didn't move to Cleveland until like the middle of my senior year, but I still went to Joshua to finish.
Yes.
But I knew her older sisters. I knew her older brother. So I knew of her, and we had met several times before.
Mm-hmm.
So
okay. So where'd you go to boot camp?
Fort Benning, Georgia.
Fort Benning.
Home of the infantry.
I'm sorry to hear that. So I was going to ask you, let me guess, that's what you did, infantry.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's pretty good. So you do your basic training. How was your experience?
It was a little different than what I thought it would be. I mean, because you watch a bunch of movies and stuff like that.
You're 6'6". You tower. I'm sure you're 6'5". I know you tower over these little kids. And you're 24 years old. Come on.
Well, so like I was in the 4th platoon, the guys with like the National Guard guys, and I only signed a 3-year contract. So I guess that was all.
That's very different. Yeah, normally it's 4 years or 6 years. That's crazy.
3 was the shortest you could sign, but depending on your MOS, you would have more of the inactive duty reserve. So you could still be called back for 8 years. So,
correct. Yes, that's how they do the contracts.
But I also joined in October of 2003, right before that was right after the invasion of Iraq.
And right after 9/11
going.
Oh my goodness.
So they were taking anybody and everybody.
Oh.
But there were other guys like I was in 4th platoon. The 2nd platoon guys were guys who had like Ranger contracts and SF. So you talk about the meatheads who had been training because they want to be Green Berets and other
Yes.
stuff like that. So I wasn't the biggest, but I was up there.
Yeah.
You know.
So, in case anybody has any questions, if you're listening or watching, you can ask. If you have to ask Dave a question, go ahead and submit your question, and I'll ask him live on air if you have to. Anything that pertains to military that you might want to ask him that he's probably experienced. So Dave, you go and trained. Where'd you go to AIT? That's Advanced Individual Training.
That's all at Benning too. So if you
all of it is at one station.
Yeah.
Wow, that's
so
crazy.
if you're only in the infantry, so you get, it's like 4 months total time. So the first 2 months are your basic training where you basically learning to be a soldier. And then everything kind of changes. Like they get a bit more lax. You don't have as many drill sergeants around all the time. And then they say, all right, well, now you're technically out of basic training and now you're an AIT. So now it's like, all right, we're going to teach you how to be an infantryman. So you already know how to be a soldier. This is the infantry side where you get to be more hands-on with like heavy weapons,
foxholes, lots of foxholes, more foxholes. After you're done digging that foxhole, did you have to dig another foxhole?
Honestly, we really didn't dig that many because I was tank division, a lot of field artillery, and we were told the infantry guys just did a lot of foxholes, a lot of them. We didn't do a lot of field exercises until our last one of basic training where it's like a week long. And then, you're digging foxholes.
A lot of foxholes.
But I was there in the winter. So ground's hard in Georgia.
But how, I mean, you being 6'5", I mean, getting in the foxholes, I bet you have to dig just a little bit deeper than most.
Well, luckily, I was the platoon guide, which is kind of the liaison between the drill sergeant and the rest of the platoon, where they're kind of teaching you. And you see that in AIT where they kind of teach people how it's going to work once you get your unit. Like, all right, you're the platoon guide. So like your captain wouldn't go to tell a platoon what to do. That would be the first sergeant and breaks it on down. So you're kind of learning that. And somehow, I mean, I know how I did it. The guy recommended me for platoon guide and I got stuck with it. Luckily, I didn't have to dig as many foxholes.
Oh, that's
I
good.
was kind of in charge, but I had to be in charge of 55 other guys.
You had them do it.
Yeah.
So you were telling him, hey, okay, I need you to do a 5 foot. I need you to do one for me. That's 6 foot.
Yeah. I convinced my drill sergeant instead of let me dig mine down 6 foot, I got to dig it 6 feet long.
Nice.
So I could just lay in it instead of standing.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. First time I met you at the restaurant, the Rim, in case you want to go and get some really good food, is the Rim. But yeah, I met you and I was like, good Lord, this guy, this guy. And Rachel told me you were tall.
Yeah.
She goes, just so you know, my husband's tall. I didn't know how tall you were. So, but anyway, okay. So you get done with your AIT individual. Thank you for explaining, because a lot of people that are listening weren't in the military, so they don't know what you experienced. So it's good that you're explaining what certain roles are.
Okay.
So how long did it take you to get to the rank that you're at before you actually left the military? So E5.
2 years and 8 months from the time I got on the plane to leave for basic training.
Okay.
In the infantry, you can gain rank really quickly because
the promotion points are ridiculously low.
Well, the promotion points aren't really low, that I would say, but you get a lot of points for combat.
That's
true. And I'd already had a year of combat, so that counts towards a lot. I had friends of mine who were in the motor pool and they were mechanics. A friend of mine who was he worked on like night vision goggles and stuff. He had been in for 7 years, and he was just a specialist. And I talked to him about it one day, and I'm like, "Isn't that odd?" He's like,
"That is odd."
I'm
like,
like,
specialist at 7 years. Holy mackerel!
But I got to looking around, and I got to meeting those guys because I got to know them. I would work with them more and more, and I realized everybody's like that. And they're like, "Yeah," because it's very hard for us to get promotion points. But you infantry guys, they're like, "Y'all go to combat, and combat counts for a lot." So it was normal. Around 3 years was about the time you would go from a private to a team leader, E5 sergeant.
Well, okay. So I forgot to ask you, did you have any of your friends from high school join with you?
No.
So it was just you?
No, I had a friend of mine. He had talked about it with me, and they had the buddy program, and he was younger than I am, and he was a good kid. And I was like, look, we're joining in a time of war, and we're joining the infantry. we're going to war.
Yeah, if you join the infantry, you're going to go to Afghanistan or Iraq or wherever they want to send you.
I mean, our drill sergeants
told
2
you
weeks
that.
after we were there, they're like, you all need to come to the realization that after you finish AIT and everything, within 6 months, 80 to 90% of you will be in a combat zone.
Yeah.
And I knew that. And I told them, I was like, don't do that. You've got a lot more potential than I did, stay here. And like my mother told me, stay here and try to get an apartment, make something of yourself, find something that makes you happy here before you decide to head off to war, because it's not like we're being drafted, try that the same way I was told to do so. And if it doesn't like it, then I'll be waiting for you if you decide to join. I was like, if you're going to join, let me know and I'll stay in and I'll see if I can meet you somewhere.
Yeah, somewhere. Okay. So Rachel, you find out this man you're dating, I guess at this time you're dating him.
Well,
what'd you think about him joining the military?
I was
Did
happy.
you say no?
I was happy and I was a little unhappy, but I had just graduated high school and I was going off to college.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to go and I wanted to make something of myself. So I was extremely sad. I was like in bed and cried forever, but I thought it'd be good for him because I felt like he was too good to be where he was. He was one of the smartest people I'd met and he's really funny, and I feel like he was just being buried and forgotten about where he was. And I really wanted him to do something.
Yeah. Bet you that reunion was really sweet, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Did you get emotional even thinking about it the first time he comes back?
Oh, gosh, yeah.
I'm sure he was skinnier and younger than he is now. We were all there. I promise you, Dave. We're all young and fit. 0% body fat. Good old days.
Yeah.
The good old days. Okay. So you go through boot camp, you go through AIT. Where is your first duty station?
Camp Casey, South Korea.
Right off the bat, Korea.
Well, I picked there.
Some people choose Korea, but most choose Germany. Why Korea?
I was offered Germany, but I'd never been anywhere. Like my family, we didn't have a lot of money for vacations and things like that. So travel was not really
completely.
It was not an option for us. And I was talking with my recruiter, who actually was infantry too. That's why we got along so well. I asked him, I was like, what's the furthest away from home I can go? Because this might be my only chance to actually go. As
Rachel has nothing to do with this, right? Just want to make sure. Okay.
No, I was on my own. Like we'd went on like just a date or two before
I understand.
all this happened,
Man, you were crying for him just for that little bit amount of time.
I had been in love with him for so long.
Oh, I understand. I gotcha.
And so I had quite the effect.
Yeah. It happens, man. It happens.
Yeah.
I wanted to go as far away as possible. And I asked the recruiter.
And Korea. Why not somewhere like Japan?
Wasn't an option.
Hawaii.
Well, the Army doesn't offer for Japan. That's the Marines.
That's true.
So I thought about going to the 25th ID in Hawaii, and it's like, hell, I can stay home and do that. That was the whole point of me going, was to try to do things I couldn't do before. I was like, I want to go as far away from home as possible.
Well, you're a tougher man than I would. I got orders to go to Korea, and I did my time, and I got back real quick just because my wife was pregnant at the time.
Well, I had an uncle who was in like 86 and 87, and he was stationed there. So he would always tell me about what it was like there. I was like, well, if I get the option, I'll go. I'll see what happens,
That's good. Okay, so you go to your first duty station. You met her. You and her connecting. When did y'all get married?
September.
You better know
8th,
this.
2000.
You better know this. If you don't know this, you're fired.
I wrote it down.
Yes, yeah.
You can't forget it, right?
Yeah, I keep a note. Now, we didn't get married till September 6th of 2000 or September 8th of 2006.
So you all worked together for about 3 years.
About a year and a half. We weren't together whenever I left. We went on a couple dates, and I was like, well, I've already signed up to enlist, and she was getting ready to go to college. I was like, if it works out, we'll find each other later on.
And he did.
And
he found me.
And he forewarned you that he was infantry, right? He forewarned you, so he was going to tell you, hey, look, there's a good chance I'm going to get deployed.
Yeah,
like 110% chance I'm going to get deployed somewhere.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, after I left, I didn't talk to her for almost a year.
Yeah.
And then I called home, and someone's like, hey, did you ever talk to Rachel? I was like, no, I don't even have her number. I wouldn't even know how to get a hold of her. And through a friend of a friend, I got an email with the phone number. I was like, well, I can give her a call and say hi, And then we talked a little bit on the phone while I was in
Well, actually, remember you called me, and the number you had, I'd given to my sister. I had a cell phone because remember cell phones back then with a little Nokia.
Yeah, the flip
Just
phones.
dated
Yes,
myself, but
the
yeah.
ones that survived
Like
nuclear
ones-
blast.
Yeah, you
yes.
can get like at Walmart for like $20 now.
Yeah.
And I actually had one. I had an extra one, and I gave it to my sister because she wanted a phone, and I had gotten a new phone. So she called me one night. It was really late. It was like midnight. She's like, some guy named Dave called for you. And I was like, who? She's like, Dave. I was like, no, because it's been a really long time. And she's like, yeah. I'm like, is he going to call me back? Did you give him my phone number? And she's like,
Dave,
yeah.
what happened? What was the deal? A year?
Yeah, I know.
Dave?
It's been a long time. It's been like 8 months. It wasn't
Let's
whole
do a
year,
little
I would say.
explanation here, Dave, while we're on the radio.
We didn't talk when you were in basic.
Well, no, because we had said, well, you
Yeah.
go your way and I'll go mine. Let's not hold each other back
Yeah.
from what we were going to do.
We
So
really
if your
wanted
paths
to.
were to cross again,
Yeah.
hey, let's
And then-
rekindle. Okay.
Yeah.
And then my best friend Dave, his mother was like a mom to me.
Mhm.
And I called home and I talked to her because I hadn't talked to her in several months just
Yeah.
to say hi. And then she was the one who's like, hey, well, her best friend Kayla was there. And she's like, hey, well, have you heard from Rachel? And that was like, well, no, I wouldn't even know how to get a hold of her. And then I got a phone number that led to her sister. And I was like, who the hell am I talking to? Sam?
Yeah.
I was like, well, tell your sister I called. And she's like, okay. And she's like, I think you can reach her at this number. And I was like, oh. I called her. And then, I was just saying hi, hey, how are you? And stuff like that. I'm in Korea. Sorry for calling so late, but like we're 12 hours ahead,
Yeah.
and then we said hi and asked her how things were going. And then I was like, okay, well, I'll call you back when I get a chance. And we didn't talk for like another 4 or 5 months.
Mhm.
And I deployed and I came home on leave from Iraq. And then I ran into her.
Mhm. At Red Lobster, right? Was it
Yeah.
Red Lobster?
I was having dinner with the friend at Red Lobster and she
Mhm.
walked in. I was like, oh my God.
Was that like the moment you just knew, like the light flashed before your eyes? You're like, oh my God, it's her. Oh my God, it's Rachel.
I should say yes. But I was like, oh my God, hey. It's you. And then, we hung out for the 2 weeks
Yeah.
while I was home on
And
leave.
you rekindled a relationship.
Well, yeah. And then I left again to go back. And I was like, well, I'm going back. I don't know when I'll be home again.
Okay.
And then about 3 weeks later, after I got back, I called her and I was like, hey, this is my email. This is how we keep in touch with each other. Maybe, we could kind of just keep in touch and keep talking, keep the conversation going while I'm away. And if something happens, it happens. But if it doesn't, I can't do anything from 8,000 miles away.
Yeah.
So it kind of built, and we've always been together ever since then.
So we're going to be delving a little bit into your Iraq and Afghanistan war experience after the second half. But so I wanted to ask you, when you first met Dave
Mhm.
at Red Lobster
Mhm.
and you started talking, did you see yourself being with him all these years later? Like, did you at the time?
Yeah, it's kind of funny because I didn't date a lot. I wasn't a date person. I was really motivated. I wanted to go to school. I wanted to make something of myself.
Yes, you wanted to
Yeah,
make a career
I
out of
wanted to
something.
move out of Texas. But he just stuck with me. He just stuck with me for so many years. He just stuck with me all the
Aw.
time. And I found myself comparing him to other people, like, oh, well, he's no Dave. And I would just move on, and someone asked me out, I'd be like, no, yeah.
It's
And
no
I
Dave.
compared him, everyone physically, his humor, everything.
Yeah.
And he just stuck with me. And then, as like you said, we just found each other again. And, that sort of,
That's pretty good, Dave.
Been together ever
Yeah.
since.
Well,
you know?
that's what every person looks for, is somebody who thinks about them like that. When, especially when you're overseas and you're at your worst, getting shot at, getting nearly blown up, getting,
Well,
things
she's very
happening
hard
to
to
you.
forget.
And I could see that. No, I could see that. I could see what you see in her. Like, she's super sweet since, both the times I've met her, and I could see that. But at any time, did you get emotional thinking about the fact that you're leaving her alone?
Yes and no. I mean, I would say yes, because I know I'm not with her, but she's here with her family and her friends. So she's not all alone. She has the people that she had before I left. So
Yeah.
she still has a support system for her. So she's not alone, and she has people here she can lean on, which was, this is her hometown. This is her area. So it's not like,
I had a pretty good life. I was pretty, nailed down, I think. I had
Yeah.
a really good apartment. I had a roommate with, and she was a great roommate. And I worked a lot, went to school a lot, was busy a lot. So I don't think it was really a concern as far as if I would be okay. Emotionally, maybe. Like because back then we'd had to write letters. You couldn't call and say, hey, how's it going?
Yes.
So you send a letter, wait a few days, get a letter, and write it back. And, in our letters, it would be, especially like around holidays, or if he was going away for a while, we couldn't talk for a while because he's going on mission or something. That was hard.
It's I know full on what it means to be a soldier and how tough it is to be a soldier, and I have a lot of respect for you and thank you for serving.
Well, you too, man.
Yeah, thank you.
You
and I probably crossed paths in Iraq because I was there twice. I was in Afghanistan once, and I would rather do, like I said before, I'd rather do 5 years in Iraq instead of one tour in Afghanistan, because I hated every second of Afghanistan. It was like the worst experience of my life. So and right after this break, we're going to be talking about Dave's experience in Iraq, maybe some of the worst times and some of the best times, and also the fact that your wife was thinking about you before you got married. Were you dating? Were you going? She's not Rachel. She's not Rachel.
A little bit. I mean, I wasn't really focused on any of that.
How about we get back to after commercial?
Okay.
Please listen after the break. Thank you.
At Romika Designs, we're more than just a laser engraving and specialty design company. Much more. I'm Ron Phillips, co-owner of Romika Designs, and if you can dream it, we can probably make it. We can custom laser cut and engrave on nearly all material. Great for one-of-a-kind gifts, home decor, business and specialty items, or personalized and logoed designs created just for you or your company. Allow us to become your go-to gift and specialty project partner. Romika Designs can help make your ideas a reality. We're ready to help you design and create that special gift for any occasion, or engrave your personal or business logo on just about any product. View our designs at romikadesigns.com or simply email us with your ideas. We specialize in custom design and would be honored to have the opportunity to discuss it with you. Call us at 817-400-4040, email info@romikadesigns.com, or visit us on the web at romikadesigns.com.
Out of deck carpet giving you the blues? Tired of your old dingy and broken tile? Let my friends at the Floor Store in Cleburne, Texas give your home the makeover it deserves. This is Old Taco Joe coming to you for the Floor Store. Whether it's carpet, tile, wood flooring, or real wood laminate, the Floor Store can cover all of your flooring needs. Located at 405 West Henderson Street in Cleburne, Texas, owner Brent Harris can help. Shower tile, tub surrounds, even backsplashes. Give them a call today at 817-641-9444. The Floor Store, they've got you covered. When you're hungry for tender brisket or some delicious homemade cobbler, then look no further than Leach Brothers Barbecue, located at 1106 East Henderson, Cleburne, Texas. Leach Brothers has been family-owned and operated since 1950. Take it from me, Taco Joe Orwinski. Todd and his family have been filling my belly breakfast, lunch, and dinner for a long time. Heck, I even have my own booth, open Monday through Saturday, 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. Come see them for dine-in, carry-out, and all your catering needs.
Welcome back to the show. Welcome back to Vet for Vets. I am Angelo Rocha. Thank you for listening. I just want to mention that Joco Community Radio is proud to be the voice of Johnson County, Texas, and is live 24/7 on the TuneIn Network radio network. TuneInJoco.com is the place to find all the ways to listen and watch, and the station app is also available for free. Yes, that's free on Android and Apple devices. Simply search your store, check out the lineup and more at jococommunityradio.com. This episode and more are brought to you by Patriot Claims, making your insurance work for you. Reach out to your Texas sales rep at 844.tex.HAIL. That's 844-839-4245. Be sure to dress your arms and more at thetiffy.com. That's TheTiffie.com. So, David,
Mhm.
welcome back.
Thank you.
Yeah, hopefully you enjoyed your little break.
It was wonderful.
I see you looking at your wife, and I think about, okay, so you're in Iraq. You're thinking about Rachel before you got married, or maybe you're in that mode where you're like, this woman's gonna be my future wife while you're deployed in Iraq. What's the first thing you think about when you first land in Iraq? Mission or Rachel?
Mission, because not that I didn't think of her, but after we spoke in whenever I was in Korea, we never planned anything. We never said, okay, well, let's be together, let's talk about it. It was just, hey, how are you? Did things turn out the way you wanted? Did you get into that school? I remember you were telling me about when I talked to you about a year ago.
Yes.
It was things like that. It was mission because it has to be.
It does have to be the mission. We were all taught that you can never bring emotion, never bring family into the mindset while you're in a situation where you're getting bombed
Yeah.
or getting sniped or getting shot at.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very important what you just said.
Mhm.
That's true. So are there any things that stand out as being moments that you're really proud of in Iraq?
I think the proudest moment that I had during my first deployment, we were on a foot patrol through the city, and then
What city?
we were in Ramadi, in
Ramadi.
the Anbar province. Ramadi is west of Fallujah and Baghdad, and the western side of Ramadi is a straight shot all the way to Syria.
That's
So
right.
that's the back door into Syria and Ramadi, and it's just open desert. So like most of the people that we were actually engaging in combat weren't even Iraqi. They were Jordanian, they were Syrian, they were from out of the country, but they came in through the Anbar province. Anybody who was fighting in Fallujah, the vast majority of them were coming from Ramadi into the Anbar province and getting down to Fallujah.
Yeah. Okay. So I hate to talk about this, but did any of your friends get injured or hurt?
In my platoon, we had one KIA. It was a friend of ours. His name was Arciola. We called him Kool-Aid, and he was from New York. He was the only KIA that we had.
Okay. Do you want to talk about him? Maybe just remembering him so people understand the importance of how friendships are sometimes.
Well, we were friends, but we were in a different squad. So I didn't get to interact with him as much as I wanted to, because they kind of keep every squad separate, because he was in 4th squad, which is like the support squad, and I was in 1st squad, which is the attack squad.
Yeah.
So I didn't interact with him much, but when we had times when we weren't on mission, I got to hang out with him. He was a nice kid. His family was from outside New York City. He taught me what stickball was. I thought it was the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen, because he carried around a stickball bat. I'm like, why do you have a broom handle, dude? He's like, it's a stickball bat. I'm like, you put a broom on the end of that. That's a damn broom handle. You can call it whatever you want. He was a nice guy. We always got along. He was very supportive of everybody. He was very funny, and I couldn't ever find anything bad to say about him.
Yeah. Rest in peace, Kool-Aid. Thank you for your sacrifice. So now that you explained some decent time in your life, can you explain the worst time in all of your deployments?
I think the worst time was our very first mission. We went on a mission, and it was really supposed to be like your first missions in country and in your city are really just more of exploration. You got to get to know your area, find out where alleys, streets are.
Correct. That's
things
tactic.
like that.
Yes.
Well, the first mission that our company went out on our own, and we didn't normally do a lot of company missions. Those didn't happen like people would think they would, where you'd go out and like be a whole company. No, you normally went out as like a platoon. It was the standard issue of how you went, but we went as a company and more of a battalion, and we were told, don't get too close to Fallujah, because there's a bridge that went over the river into Fallujah.
That's right.
And somehow it wasn't my company, so I can't speak to the facts of everything that would happen, but somehow they had wound up on that bridge in the Humvee, and they had no place to turn around. So they had to cross over the river into Fallujah. And as they were turning around, their gunner took a sniper round to the back of the head and was killed. And we all heard about it over the radio. And next thing you know, we're told, all right, we're going to go back. Everybody get out of here. that was the worst part because it made it real.
Yeah,
because
and made you scared. You just were okay. I can't say you were scared, but it was an intense feeling like something could happen at any moment.
well, yeah, yes and no, because you go through train ups and you're told, all right, you're going to deploy to a combat zone, but when you're there, unless someone's shooting at you, it doesn't really feel like it. It's just another place that you're deployed to. I mean, you're going to go to your camp. You're going to bring your personal stuff in. You're going to set up your bunk and set up a TV with a DVD player. Hey, we got downtime. We're going to watch movies. We figure out where we go to guard. It's almost like you're moving in, and then you go out on mission and then you're like, oh, well, you see people, you see the locals, and you start figuring things out too. But that mission was our first rattle out of the box, and we lost somebody in our battalion. It's
Right
like,
off
okay,
the bat, and you just knew something was not right.
well, it makes it real because you're like, oh, we've been told we're going to combat and we're going to war, but war was just a word until somebody you knew was killed. And it was just all they did was they went too far over the bridge and they took a sniper round. We didn't go after them. We didn't get a chance to retaliate, to go fight back or anything. We were just told, get out of there.
So the stress levels were really high. Do you now have you suffered stress because of that post military, post the Iraq post deployments?
Not because of that incident, but yes, it's most people think war is like what you see in a movie.
Yeah, it's all BS.
Well, my first deployment in Iraq, it was exactly what I thought a war was going to be. When we went outside the gate, we were, listen up, guys. This is not a drill.
This is not a joke. You can't mess around.
Well, like I knew people who were in Baghdad, and they could go outside of the camp and they could go shopping. They could go to the local bazaar, interact with the locals. And stuff like that.
Because they knew the area.
Right. It was part of the green zone.
Yeah,
too.
the green zone. That's right.
We were so far out, we didn't get reporters. We didn't, a lot of days we didn't get chow. We didn't get water. We didn't get mail. We didn't get anything. So if we went outside the gate, we were full battle rattle. We are going to a gun fight.
Yeah.
And it was like that every single time we went out for a year, every day, almost every day. I mean, in a year, it was probably 250 combat missions, and we took contact 200 times. And that's when things start getting real. You're like, oh, this is what war is.
Yeah.
And when we lost that guy in Fallujah, it made it real. It's like war was just a word before, but now it's like, oh, okay, we're at war. People are dying. And this is actually what I was trained to do. And this is how it's going to be. That was like the worst day because that word war meant something than what I thought it did. Because we, you and me could sit and talk about, oh yeah, we're going to deploy, blah, blah, blah. We went training, blah, blah, blah. But the first time that round hit and it hit somebody you knew.
It's hard to explain the feeling you get when you hear that gun round flying over your head, or you can hear that
you hear the snap.
Yeah. The bombs just flying overhead, knowing it. Sometimes it's not the enemy. Sometimes it's our own military dropping bombs close by.
Yeah.
So at any moment during your deployments, how many times were you deployed, by the way?
I was deployed twice.
Okay, so I was going to ask you, did you ever get hurt?
I've never broken a bone, and nothing ever broke the skin.
Okay.
So I don't have any Purple Hearts or anything like that.
So that means you were, let me guess, box cutter playing around?
I dropped my pocket knife and poked myself. No,
stabbed your toe. Yeah.
I've been through about 20 IEDs. I've been shot at where I had holes in my uniform. I felt the heat from a round snap off my arm, but I've never actually taken any direct hits. I don't have any Purple Hearts, anything like that. But I have been in
pretty close
gunfights.
Pretty close, right? Okay.
I've been in numerous Humvees, driving, riding. Whenever we were hit by IEDs, landmines, I've been knocked out from an IED, and had to wake up a few minutes later, and we're in a firefight, and I'm like, what the hell just happened?
Like in the movies where they come to and all of a sudden it's muffled, everything.
Yeah.
And so you had that.
Yeah. And everybody else.
I can't say I've ever had the muffled feeling.
Yeah. And everybody else is moving around and you're trying to take stock and you're like grabbing your face, looking for blood. If is my arms here? Am I whole? What's going on? Where's everybody going? And I'm like trying to jump up and get into the fight. you know.
So the real question I'm going to ask you right now: do you regret any of the things that you've gone through?
I don't regret anything I've ever done.
Same
ever.
here, and almost. I'm just gonna make up a bullshit number here. 95% of all soldiers do not regret their time in the military. A lot of people do not respect the military like they did back in Vietnam. A lot of people that are a little bit on the left don't respect the military because they think they're killers and they just massacre people for no reason. Basically, 90% of all trades, all crafts, all jobs, all careers, 90% of the people out of all those jobs are normally good people. 10% are bad. Military, you can say that about the military. 90% are good. The 10% are bad. Cops, 90% are good, 10% are bad. But then you talk about politicians, it's the opposite. It's 10% are good, 90% are bad.
Yeah.
Who would you say is your biggest influence in the military?
I had a drill sergeant in basic training. His name was Drill Sergeant Von Swole. It was the weirdest name I've ever heard.
Was he swole?
Yes, but
Von Swole, if you're listening.
He was very fair, and he would stay up late and talk with us and answer questions and stuff like that. Because he would essentially, to use
he's the
horrible term,
epitome of what somebody who should be a soldier is.
Well, during the day, he had his drill sergeant hat on. He's like, look, this is my job during the day. But at night, when everything calms down, he would take it off and be like, hey, guys, you guys doing okay? Because some people, a lot of people don't realize when you go to basic training, there are a lot of people, because you can't smoke, can't drink. A lot of people may have had.
They say you can't smoke, you can't drink.
Yeah.
Well,
I've never smoked or drank, but I'm just saying at the time.
You have a lot of different people that are going through a lot, and they're there for a lot of reasons. But he would talk to us, hey, you guys doing okay?
Talk to you like actual people,
Yeah.
not children, like a lot of them they do now.
Take the drill sergeant hat off and just speak to you as a person. And that meant a lot to a lot of people.
Yeah.
But when he put that hat on, and then
He meant
he was
business.
business. But
Yeah.
what really made me like him was he showed up one day and he was in his full dress blues. And I have never, to this day, and I've shook hands with 4-star generals, I've never seen anybody with more stuff on his uniform
than
that person.
Than Swole.
I mean, Special Forces, Ranger, Mountain, President's 100, all on his left arm, combat patches, medals, everything. I didn't even know half that stuff even existed to this day.
I
had
gotcha.
it. And when he would talk to us about everything he had done, he was a Green Beret, he went Delta, he was a Ranger, and all that. It was a lot of motivation for someone who's coming into the infantry. And some guys instantly regret that decision. And then some guys really want to do the best they can. He was a big inspiration of like, you can do this. These things are attainable. It's not like, those things only exist in a movie. These are real, and that person exists, and he was one of them. If he can do it, it is attainable, and your uniform can look like this too.
So have you ran into any of your drill sergeants outside of boot camp?
No, never.
No. Okay. So we're going to talk about nearing the end of your deployment. How did you feel knowing you got orders to go back to the United States? Were you happy to go home, or were you happy that I can see Rachel again?
A little bit of both. Well, I actually, truth be told, I never told her this. I actually wanted to stay because they were the new unit that was coming in. They had told us that there was a possibility that you could get to stay and transfer to that unit, and then you could get a level up in rank.
Yes.
And then you could stay deployed. If you can get used to hell, you might not want to leave.
Some people like it over there. Some people like the Middle East. And when I was there, people thought I was Iraqi because my family originated from Saudi Arabia a long, long time ago. And I was walking around, and these Iraqis would come up to me because I'm wearing the American uniform. They'd go, "Yo, Mariki, yo, Mariki." It's like, what do you mean? Yes, I'm American. You look Iraqi. You look Iraqi.
Yeah, that didn't happen to me.
Yeah, no. Nobody's 6'6" in Iraq.
There were a couple.
I saw some chubby ones, little chubby, chunky ones. But so you went through all the bullshit. Bullshit here, bullshit here. You get to America and you land. Who is the first person you see when you get off that plane?
Actually, I didn't have any family or anybody that came to see me.
No way. Rachel.
No, whenever he would come home, he
You
wouldn't
never
tell
say
me.
anybody.
He wouldn't tell me he was coming home.
I
He
can
always
understand
he'd
that.
always surprise me. So he'd like show up at my door, or he'd send me flowers to work. And he'd show up at my work. He always fibbed about when he was coming home, and he surprised me every single time. So I only ever got to get him from the airport one time, because it was the only time he actually told me he was coming home.
Oh.
Because every time he came home, he wouldn't tell me, because I think it was a little bit of like he didn't want to disappoint me if he couldn't make it,
Yeah, I
and then a little
understand.
bit of, okay, I don't want to tell her, so I can surprise her. So he did that a lot. So I only picked him up from the airport once, and that was it.
So you left the military, you ETS'd. What was the major reason you chose to leave instead of stay like your deployment?
She told me she would divorce me.
Well, we had been.
Did you have kids at this point?
No,
No.
definitely not.
Okay.
No. I just finished college, and I was just getting into my career.
Okay.
And so I was working, 55, 60 hours a week, most of it for free, and then I was also working an actual job so I could pay our bills, pay our rent and stuff. And so when he was like, okay, should I stay, or should I, should we, come home? And I'm like, I'm done with this. So you can come home or you can stay, but I've served my country well, I feel. I was
Nothing
good.
wrong with being a military wife.
I was good
That's
and
a
faithful wife. I
respectable
just
trait.
worked and went to school every day.
Good.
I was like, I'm done. I served my shot. If you want to go, you feel free. But I've got to make something here.
So, Dave, where did life lead you after the military? Where are you working? Where did you get a job at, while also maintaining your relationship with your wife?
I worked at AT&T. My best friend Dave, his dad had worked at AT&T for like 25 years. So
nepotism, love it.
Well, and then my buddy Dave started there like 6 months before I did.
Yeah.
And when I got out, they started like the UVerse program. So they were hiring a lot of people, and I needed a job.
No one would hire him because he hadn't had work experience.
Yeah, because
He hadn't worked in
do you
4
know
years.
how hard it is as an infantryman to show that you have experience?
Well,
oh my gosh.
I had a friend who worked at Sprint. He's like, hey, I could probably get you a job at the call center.
Yeah.
It's right over off Meacham. I'm like, hey, I'll take anything because, I need a paycheck. And when I went to do an interview with the people, they're like, well, what have you done for the last 5 years? So give us an explanation of what it was. I'm like, I spent the last 5 years in combat.
Yeah.
Do you want me to tell you about being shot at, blown up? I can tell you about that. What do you want to know about battlefield trauma?
Yes, that's
I think
experience. Check.
Yeah.
Like she's asked this girl's asked me all these questions, which is just on her form. She's like, well, tell me in the last 5 years how you've done this. I'm like, I picked up a dude's arm 6 months ago that I found in a piece of barbed wire. Should I elaborate?
Should I write
on
that down as experience?
I'm like, do you want me to elaborate on that? Because that's all I got.
Yeah.
And she just she was terrified.
Did she go? Was the arm more than 50 pounds? Yeah. Because you got to have that.
Needless to
limit.
say, he didn't get a call back.
The interview was cut short.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I started with AT&T, and I liked working outside, and I was a technician, and I got to meet people. And it honestly, it really kind of helped like PTSD and stuff like that, because a lot of soldiers, you tend to get really closed off. And I was forced to meet people. I was forced to go out and drive around the city, because I was from Joshua and stuff like that. I didn't venture out a whole lot. I knew Fort Worth, but my first area to work was mid cities. I didn't know 121. They're like, you got to go over by the airport.
I actually worked there already.
I'm like, where the hell's the airport?
What were you doing when Rachel was like, Dave, I have some interesting news for you. I'm pregnant.
Oh gosh.
I was sitting on the balcony.
Yeah.
After work, I was having a cigarette, and she's like, I'm pregnant. I was like,
okay.
Should we celebrate? It's like, is this
That's a good thing.
We've been married for 4 years.
You've been thinking about Dave.
Yeah.
Dave is Dave now.
Well,
Dave is not the guy who's not Dave.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and we wanted to spend as much time together. I grew up, I was the youngest of 5, so I had thousands of nieces and nephews, and I had my time with children. Yeah. So we really wanted to
You had a lot of experience.
Yes. So we wanted to enjoy each other, go on vacations, and we were just trying to survive, because when he got out, it was a recession, and we were trying to save money, so kids weren't really in the forecasts, and then it just happened.
So how many kids do you have now?
We have 3.
Okay, can you tell me their ages and what sex they are?
Yeah.
Molly, our oldest, is our daughter. She is 11.
Mm-hmm.
And then Mercy is second. She is our other daughter. She is 4. And we have a son, Bishop. He is 2.
Okay, so you told me that you have a child with special needs.
Yes, that's Mercy.
You want to talk about Mercy?
Sure. Yeah. So Mercy, she has Turner syndrome. She has a heart condition. She's severely autistic, and she's developmentally delayed. And and that the disorders that she has, she only had a 2% chance of making it to a live birth.
Wow.
And so she's one of the 2% that made it. So she's a miracle all day, every day. And
You look at her and just think how
all
awesome.
day, every day. She is the happiest child you will ever meet. She never cries. She never throws a tantrum. Never. She smiles. She giggles. She laughs all day long. She is literally our heartbeat. Like,
I asked Dave to if he wanted to, he can bring her on the show, and he said no,
yeah,
because she would run around like a road runner.
Is not an option to her, and she doesn't understand communication really. So I couldn't ask her, "Hey, sit down." She doesn't understand that.
How has the support been with her, with the family?
It's been good. I think a lot of people.
Do they get overwhelmed with her the way she
they're
is as a
extremely
person?
curious about her whenever I gave birth to her, because she had like puffy hands and puffy feet, and the doctor was like, something is wrong, something is going on, because everything was fine during the pregnancy. And then when I gave birth to her, they're like, she has something, we're not quite sure, we're going to figure it out. So we told our family after we saw the geneticist, after we really found out what she had, we sat our family down and told them what her life would look like at that time, which is not being able to have children, things like that. We didn't know all about her because she was just an infant. She was only 7 weeks old when we found out some of her disorders. So but I think it's been good. My mother has been a huge lifeline for us. Huge lifeline. She's with her right now. And
You told me your father has passed away, right? When you were 5?
He passed when I was 5. So it's just her. So it's just my mom.
So she raised you as a single mother?
Yeah.
With all.
Yeah.
No stepfather?
No, I had a stepfather when I was I was around 11 or 12. But it was a really complicated. She worked for him. He owned his own company. It was a really complicated relationship. So he was gone all the time. I never saw him ever. So we didn't like have a father-daughter relationship in any way. It was just more of, he's there.
No. Yeah. So you are raising your kids. If there's one thing that you can tell your kids or other people's kids about what it's like to be a veteran and what it means to be a veteran, and in your own words, what would you say a veteran is and what it means to the people of America?
Being a veteran to me means that you answered the call of your country. Your country needed you, and you said, okay, I will help. I will do what I can. Thousands of people, millions of people join the military. Not everybody has a combat job. So some people decide, hey, combat's not for me.
That's right. A lot of people don't realize there's a lot of peace work.
Well, there's only 1% of the military actually joins a combat MOS, and that's the infantry. So a veteran to me means that you asked, I answered, and veterans come in all shapes and sizes. Anybody can join, anybody can try,
That's true. But the military has its own regulations, and certain people get disqualified, but doesn't mean they can't help in every single way they could. One of them is supporting the veteran cause, i.e., if you see one wearing a veteran hat somewhere, just go up to them and say, thank you for your service. You'll be surprised the emotion that some of these gentlemen or gentle women will go through just thinking about you, asking them that. My daughter grew up appreciating the veteran mentality. So every time she asked these gentlemen, thank you for your service, some of them cry because they can't believe a little girl is asking him, thank you for your service. Because not everybody is respected in the military. A lot of these people are, especially during Vietnam, when they were coming back, a lot of bad stuff happened to them, and they were disregarded. They were just kind of treated like they're just regular people, when they're, in fact, they're not regular people. They've been through some of the toughest things that any human being could possibly go through.
I think that he raises our daughter that way as well. Like they went out one day to get a tire change, an oil change, and she was with him, and there was a man in the room, and he had a shirt on that said "Cops are cowards." And she asked my husband, she was like, Daddy, are you going to say something to him? And Dave was like, no, that's his right to wear that shirt. We don't have to agree with it.
That's his
right to wear it.
That's what we're there for. We're there to give them that right to do it. But at the same time, we also have the right to call you out for your shit too, as well.
Yeah.
So if they're making fun of something like the military, you're right. It's your right to say the military is bullshit. But it's my right to say you're a piece of crap for calling the military bullshit, which is what a lot of people don't like.
Right, exactly.
And then I like to think of it like in Vietnam. You can disagree with why people went. that you may not have agreed with the war because the Vietnamese never did anything to us. And a lot of things come out that there were falsities, and a lot of people could believe that we were lied into those wars, just like Iraq and other things. But you don't have to hate the person that fought in the war.
I couldn't agree anymore. Thank you for your time, everybody. Please listen in next week for Vet for Vets. This is Angelo Rocha, and we are out. Thank you.
From Burleson to Venus and Grandview to Godley, this is the voice of Johnson County, Joco Community Radio.
Hey, travelers, do you want to save money on your next flight? Then pick up the phone and call. That's right, call. Because the best prices are not online. They're with theirs. See, SmartFare